And I'm thinking if this is the nature of, it's almost like a Disney, a Mickey Mouse clubhouse, adorable Nazi kind of racism. I wonder what the rest of it looks like. What is the toxic masculinity version of this racism that the people are facing? Because to me, if this is the baseline, it only gets worse from here.
Absolutely. Yeah, the sexual assault, I've gotten so many stories, the sexual assault, the Islamophobia, it's through the roof at these schools.
Wow.
Yeah. And you also talked about a situation with the cars in the parking lot, and can you elaborate on that? I know it kind of got loud. They called the police in at one point. Can you expound on what that culture is in the parking lot and how students are affected by those issues there?
Yeah, we can paint a picture real quick. Lavish got on live and a bunch of kids attested to this, and I got a bunch of messages from kids about it. It's something that they called truck row. And all these kids had their Confederate flags, their Trump 2020 flags during the election, their Don't Tread on Me flags that hung on the back of their truck. And they all thought they were just this big bad gang that had their own row in the parking lot. So leading up to the election, they would, get all rowdy and after school and whatnot. And if you parked in their row, if you by chance didn't know, or you were like, oh, I'm going to park here for the day, there was a kid that had a tow truck, and he would either tow your car would get peed on and vandalized. Oh, wow. So, and all of the staff knew about it. They all knew. They just let it happen. They had moments in school where they paused and had to pray for Trump. Like, they've created this environment.
Wow. They stopped and prayed for Trump, but did nothing about students urinating on vehicles and towing them illegally. Wow, Georgia. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was taken aback and to think, Courtney, you walked into that school board meeting with a very thick stack of papers documenting hundreds of experiences. And even that day when we were standing outside of Prior Lake High School, we heard from dozens of students, even from other schools nearby, that have had these experiences. Could you share with us maybe one of the most surprising encounters or experiences that either a student or a former student has shared with you all, and maybe talk about whether or not it was addressed?
I guess one of them that really hit a chord, there was a couple that hit a chord with me, and one of them I read yesterday, but this other one was about this girl who was a freshman, and her mom called and said, hey, she's recently been sexually assaulted. You have to just take it easy. Like, you got to understand what she's going through, told her story. And the day she showed up at school, all the kids knew about it. And they were bullying her for it and blasting her for it. And she went to the office and the school counselor and was like asking and pleading for help. And the principal at the time, which is not the current principal, but there was a principal at the time. So just to give you a playbook of how this has just repeatedly gone on, told her that she was making it up and she needed to get over it and like dry up her tears. And she's messaging me as she graduated in 2007, and she's messaging me and I'm like, you are so strong, you are so powerful and all these things. And she was like, every day I live with it. It's something that these people don't grow out of. So these school systems need to understand, like, you don't just go home and it's done. You don't just turn 30 and it's over. You relive these things every day, and you have to wake up and make a conscious acknowledgement to keep moving forward. It impacts them. And honestly, that one hit very hard, and it was never addressed. No one ever heard about it. She just had to she's like, I just had to ride the wave until it was the next something else happened that took the attention off of me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank you for the work that you all are doing. Before you go, you said Elizabeth is Naya's sister, correct?
Yeah.
So I want
and she's still a Prior Lake High School student.
Yeah, I want to share the clip of Elizabeth. She was really emotional, disappointed that the school board was not willing to hear the stories of other students so that they could realize this is not an isolated incident. This is not something that has just occurred one time. This is not something that's just occurring, Courtney, to your point, under the current administration of the principal who is in charge right now. This is something that has happened to former students of this high school. This is something that's happening district-wide in other schools, and you guys have documentation of that. You were trying to go through the correct process by presenting it last night. That was shut down. Lavish and Courtney, as we saw, you were both frustrated, but also let's remember who is at the center of all of this. 14-year-old Naya, who received these violent, racist, hateful attacks online, and her family's been impacted. Her sister, who's a student, also has been impacted. So I want you guys to take a look at Naya's sister yesterday when she realized the school board came back in not to listen, but just to let people know that they were adjourning the meeting and then they were leaving back out. Take a look.
Get up and walk out.
Walking out on kids, y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
And you guys just get to walk out. Well, every day we have to struggle. And you can just walk out of the room and not listen to what we go through. You all are white. And you all racist.
Ben, check Slack.
You all listen to racist right now. You don't listen to anything that we have to say. You do not care about any of us in this room. And I hope every day that your children feel what we feel and you finally understand what we have to go through. Sick. Do not.
Yeah, and so, as we get ready to wrap up here, it was emotional just to be there with you all last night. You mentioned that you're going to be meeting potentially with the governor and looking to present some laws. Can you share more about what you hope to do next?
Yeah, so there's already an anti-bullying clause in Congress. It's federal. However, apparently these schools aren't aware of it. But we want to add in a racial component where you don't just get held accountable and you get suspended or there's expulsion, but there's also potential criminal charges behind that. You can't move on with the status quo. You can't go ahead and get accepted to college. You can't get a regular job or things like that. Maybe you have to do 100 hours of community service or you got to go to a program, something along those lines. But there definitely needs to be a racial component because there already is a bullying aspect, as you mentioned previously. So adding that in, I think, would be critical for sure.
I think
and
it's
also, if you could, yeah, thank you.
No, I just think also they're trying to get in this doxing because Naya's address was leaked. Naya's address was leaked by another student at the school, and there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing about it. You have the kids now unsafe in school, and then you go home and their addresses are leaked. And clearly, this is a very racist town. So one, it's just not safe, and so we're trying to put that in through as well because you're leaking the addresses of minors.